you want to be here to find out what it is, because it's more than just chocolate. Okay? It's in every one of us. The vision that we're working with today is the idea that it would be difficult to believe in a God who cares more for one person than another. It would be difficult to believe in that God. I know I was raised with that kind of a God, and I found it difficult, even as a child, to sit there and say, I don't get it, that this God that's supposed to be all-loving would believe and love one person more than another. And I'm so happy when I discovered this kind of a teaching that said, no, that's not the truth anyways. So, God is infinite love. God just is infinite love. You and I are immersed in that right now, whether we know it or not, whether we remember it or not, whether we forget it or not. I know sometimes I forget it. Anybody else ever forget it, that you're immersed in a field of infinite love? Yeah. But we still are, anyway. The earth is still round even if we think it's flat. So God is this infinite love, and that love is expressed through what Ernest Holmes calls an impersonal law, that process. In other words, the way that when I say an impersonal, when he says an impersonal law, what he means is the law plays no favorites. It doesn't like one person better than the other. As Jesus put it, the rain falls over the heads of the just and the unjust alike. It doesn't care. And when you're living in a desert culture, which is where Jesus was living in, rain's a good thing, right? Kind of a little bit like here when we were in the middle of the drought. Rain is a good thing, and it didn't care whose head it falls on. It doesn't say, well, I'll bless the good people here and I'll withhold from the bad people here. It just falls, and that's how the law is. It plays no favorites. Since each of us is an individualization of the one cares for all of itself, so it cares for each of us completely and totally. Doesn't have a list of what you did, good or bad. It isn't, like the Santa Claus we got raised with, right? You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. It's not that at all. Every cell, you and I are cells, every cell in the body of God is a perfect, important, and valuable part of the whole body. You are important and you are valuable because you are one, an expression of the body of God. Since each of us is a holistic expression, it means all of God is contained within us, and we can see all of God from each person. Since we are a holistic expression of the allness of the divine, all of us are part of the ecology, the holographic wholeness of the one. Each of us is one of that. Each of us is part of that. The infinite could not care more for one aspect of itself than another. It doesn't like one part of itself more than it likes another part of itself. All is whole and all is a unity. The universe is a unity. The universe is a oneness, completely expressing. Ernest Holmes tells us that the greatest lesson we have to learn is the unity of love and law, the unity of it. The necessity of law in shaping a divine individuality, and the necessity of experience in awakening to this divine individuality. See, what James talked about was the experience of awakening to the truth of who he is already. And each of us is in that process. And the law is that process of what we put out comes back to us until we recognize that all we're here to do is love. I think back to Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray. Most of us have seen that, where he got to do the same day over and over and over again until he was stripped of everything else excepting love. And he was just being the authentic self, the authentic loving self that he was, that character in that movie. And that was all there was to do. And so that's the purpose of the law. It's not to punish us. It's not to make life difficult for us. It's to remind us of who we are so that everything else can fall away. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes I don't like that process. It feels painful. And yet, if we walk through that process, it reveals to us the truth of who we are. Ernest Holmes goes on to say, God is love, and God is law. The love of God is omnipresent, and the law of God is omnipresent. The love of God is the divine givingness, the eternal outpouring of Spirit through its creation. The law of God is the law of cause and effect, which says that we can have only what we take. Since this taking is a mental and spiritual as well as physical act, we can take only that to which we are receptive. Am I willing to be receptive to the love that's been given in the universe? Am I willing to sort out what looks like other stuff and be receptive to this love, to this light? Again, James referred to being part of his process was using alcohol to block the receptivity. And we use oftentimes a lot of different things. We use alcohol, we use busyness, we use judgments of ourselves and other people, we use all sorts of stuff to hold back. But God is all there is. God is all there is. But we put on masks, right? We put on masks. I love Halloween because we get to play with our masks. We put on the masks to hide the light we are. We put on masks to cover over our own perceived wrongs and hurts. I don't want you to really see who I am, because if you do, you'll see that I'm actually really messed up and a damaged individual. Okay? We put on masks to protect ourselves from others who are wearing their masks. We put on armor to do the same thing. We're taught early on, don't be who you really are. Don't cry when you feel like crying. Don't laugh when you feel like laughing. Don't be the authentic self that you really are. We get that early on. Hide your hurt. Hold back your joy. Okay. Hold back your full aliveness. Take a breath with me. And so we go through life with those masks. We go through life with those masks. Part of my healing process, I was sharing this with, I think it was with the foundations class recently, might have been the practitioner class, I did both this week. Part of my process that I had to go through was, I don't live with my mother anymore. I don't live with my mother anymore. I don't live with my mother anymore. Because I realized that I had to be free of the rules and the laws that were set up in the household that I grew up in, and they didn't apply anymore. And I wasn't living in that kind of a consciousness anymore. So sometimes we just have to face the truth. And this is nothing against my mother, but just the process that I grew up in. We have to face the masks. We have to face and get through the masks to say, I'm not enough, I'm separate, I'm damaged goods. We have to drop our armor that we use to both protect ourselves and sometimes the weaponry that comes with it, where we go attack somebody else before they can attack us. I've heard that called a preemptive strike. I'll hurt you before you can hurt me. Okay? People ruin entire relationships, personal relationships, friendships, work relationships, with that preemptive strike idea. I know I'm going to get hurt, so I'm going to hurt first. And we do all this instead of experiencing the divine love. And the divine love is the reality of what's available to us. So how do we stop this? Now that I've got everybody depressed, how do we stop this, right? Take a breath. Swami Muktananda made a point of telling his students that the scriptural and philosophical texts of India never speak about attaining God. They speak only of purifying the mind. So if our own mind is the very essence of life, what is there to master except our own mind? See, if the universe is already the love, the only thing to master is the part of us that doesn't believe that and doesn't see that and doesn't get that, right? And so our own responsibility is to just simply become aware of that which already is. We don't have to attain God. We're already there. Okay? If you want to attain God, you've already done it. You did it when your soul was created, whenever that was. We're only here to attain awareness that we have already attained God. So we master this mind through taking off the masks behind which we've hidden. And this can be scary, because if you've lived behind that mask, if it's become part of you, it's part of your identity. It's part of my identity. For when I'm looking through this, this is my story. It's really real. Okay? And if I take that story off, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am without that story. And I lose my identity. And that can be scarier than taking off the mask. Because I have to be somebody fresh. I have to be somebody new. In the story labeled The Prodigal Son, which my label for it, by the way, is The Loving Father. Sorry, I just saw an animal walk by out there on its way to children's church. I love Halloween. In the story of the prodigal son, God, which is symbolized by the Father, loves constantly. There's no point in the journey of the son where God stops loving the son, right? When the Son finally comes to himself. See, the Father doesn't have to change anything. It's the Son who has to change, right? The Son comes to himself. He remembers the truth of who he is. He remembers that he's the son of this wonderful Father. And that home is still available to him. When he comes to himself, then the Father can rush out and fully express the love which the Son was holding off. And that's what we do, is we hold off the love of God until we finally come to ourselves and say, you know what? The joy feels so much better. The light feels so much better. And I'm willing to give up the 6-pack a day, or the busyness, or the Facebooking, or the game playing, or the blaming, or the story of the hurt, or whatever it is that I've been hiding behind. I'm willing to give that up. As we stop pushing away infinite love and life and love through our searching and through our manipulating to get love, then truth, life, and love automatically rushes in. The same as the water rushes in when we finally take down the dam. As we take off our masks, the reality of what's around us can actually come in. As we take off our armor, the reality of what's already here rushes in. We don't have to make that happen. We don't have to make that happen. We just have to open up to allow it to happen. We have to drop our stories. So I want to do a practice of coming to ourselves. And so Damien, I didn't cue you up on this, I'm sorry, but if you have a little bit of quiet music back there, it'd be lovely. And I want to invite us to, if you're willing to, we're going to kind of take a little journey of taking off a layer of our mask. Would that be all right? If you want to. You don't have to, but you can just quietly meditate if you don't want to. So I invite you to take a deep breath and become still and let yourself relax. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Relax into the chair and let it fully support you. Take another deep breath and relax deeper, more deeply, more fully. And imagine now that you're stepping onto a path that's going to lead you to a place that you've been before, a place known as your sacred space. The space where you feel safe, where you feel loved, where you feel in control, but without being controlling. Your sacred space. Follow that path now to that space. Allow yourself to arrive in this space. And look around. Be aware of what it looks like. Be aware of what it sounds like. Be aware of any smells. Reach out and touch something. Just notice what it feels like. And taking a deep breath, find a beautiful place for you to be seated. And sit in that spot. And in your sacred space, you're going to allow yourself to form a portal, a gateway. And through that portal, you're going to invite a guide, someone who loves, cares for you, someone who's in deep power, to support you in the process of releasing a layer of masking. And so let that person, that being, that guide into your space now. Notice what your guide looks like. Notice if your guide has anything to say to you. And with your guide's help, you also allow into your sacred space first a mirror, a full-length mirror. one of perfect clarity where you can truly see yourself. And then off to the side, a cauldron of boiling water. Allow those into your sacred space. And now step in front of the mirror and take a look, and with the help of your guide, identify a mask or a piece of armoring that you're willing to shed or remove, that you've carried around for too long, and you know you've carried it around for too long, and it no longer serves you and it hasn't for a long time, but you haven't known before how to get rid of it. And just become aware of what that mask, what that armor is. Again, letting your guide support you in that process. Notice why it is that you have wanted to retain that mask or that armor. Notice what purpose it has served in your life. And ask your guide to reveal how you can have that purpose served in a more empowering way, in a more freeing way. So that mask is no longer necessary. When you know that you're strong enough, that you can live and be more fully empowered, more fully alive without this mask or without this armor, with the help of your guide, allow it to come off of you. Take off that mask, take off that armor, and throw it into that boiling cauldron. And allow it to dissolve. Allow it to just simply be boiled into nothingness, into the no-thingness that it always was and is right now. Throw that into the cauldron. And as you allow that to be dissolved, take a deep breath and feel your greater sense of authenticity, your greater sense of aliveness. Breathe that in. Feel it. Be aware of your greater awareness of the infinite love that already and always surrounds you. And let that love in through every pore of your skin. With a fresh new body. The body that's clear and clean and free of that mask, of that armor. Breathe in that aliveness. Breathe in that love. Let every cell be immersed in it. Be aware of that. Every cell is refreshed and renewed more than ever before. Breathing that in, breathing that out. Being willing to let this live in your body. And now ask your guide for wisdom and how to stay in this body, how to stay in this awareness and not go pick up another mask. Let your guide support you in how to live this life more freely and more empowered. Tap into the wisdom of this beautiful being. Breathe in that wisdom. Allow yourself to become that. Allow yourself to now be a person who is free of that mask. And let this be the new self that you live from and that you live as. Know that as you face the circumstances that have triggered off wanting to put up the masks, that they no longer have power over you, you have power over them. Your authenticity is greater than the stuff. The power of the love that lives as you is greater than the stuff. And when you're ready, you allow that boiling cauldron to disappear, to vaporize right out of your sacred space, so it's no longer there. You look one more time in the mirror, seeing the fresh self that you are, the empowered self that you are, with your guide's loving approval, sharing your joy. And then that you let the mirror dissolve. You thank your guide for their support of this process and their wisdom, knowing that you can reconnect with this guide whenever you want. And when you're ready, you let them step back through the portal from which they came and allow the portal to close. And you stand self-aware in your own sacred space. Look around and notice if anything has changed. Feeling your vibrant aliveness. And you prepare now to return from that sacred space, knowing that you can move back into that sacred space anytime you want. But for now, you step on the path that leads you back to this chair in this room and begin to walk that path. Being aware of the path under your feet, until you allow yourself to be back fully in the chair in this room, in that body that is now free of that mask and free of that armor. That body that is now the authentic self, more fully than before. And taking a deep breath. Allow yourself to be fully grounded here. Wiggle your fingers, toes, perhaps roll your shoulders or stretch a little bit if you'd like. Being fully present. When you're ready, gently open your eyes and be back in this room. Welcome. Good morning again. And so taking that deep breath in and out one more time, I invite us this week to engage in a couple of spiritual practices. And the first one is to just meditate on the one life. Take some time this week to just meditate on the divine. They say that what we put our attention on is what increases. Let us put our attention on that infinite life, that infinite love. Secondly, this week, notice when you're living from a mask or armor. Notice when you get triggered and be more self-aware. This is a mask. This is my armor. It's triggered off. Don't beat yourself up. Just notice. Be aware of it. And then let yourself not believe in that mask anymore. Notice when you're not believing in your true self and you're forgotten, and let yourself believe in that mask. And then finally, be willing to release each mask or layer of armor as you encounter it. This week I got rather triggered off. The last couple of weeks I've been rather triggered off. And so I sat yesterday in meditation for quite a while, just releasing and releasing and releasing, and standing in that truth. God is all there is, and I am one of that. And I could feel layers peeling off and peeling off. And so I invite you to do that, to join me in that process, to just release that. The Course in Miracles asks a very powerful question: would I rather be happy or would I rather be right? And when we're stuck in our masks, we're usually stuck in having to be right about our story, about whatever it is that's going on. Would I rather be happy? Would I rather be in my authentic self, or would I rather be right? And keep on coming to yourself. Keep on the process of coming to yourself to allow that Father, Mother, God to love you as you are. I'm going to close with the following thought. That is, as we let the truth of Spirit within dawn in our lives, the body is healed, including the global body. As we allow Spirit to dawn within us, the global body, the whole world around us is healed. Individual transformation, through understanding the unity of all life, transforms the global without an outer struggle. We're watching a whole lot of struggle in the outer right now, right? In so many places. The transformation within is like turning on a light. It doesn't struggle with the darkness. And so as we allow that light within us that is already present to be on more fully, it simply transforms the global without outer struggle. More important than who we elect next week is who we elect to be. Am I willing to let high thought, truth, be the executive branch of my mind? Am I willing to let my thoughts and actions align with Spirit to legislate truth and love throughout my life and into the world? And am I willing to judge with clarity what is known as righteous judgment and see the oneness behind the masks of separation? And let that be my judicial branch. So this is the ongoing and most important election we ever face, is the one within. So let's move into prayer. And so breathing in deeply, letting that breath go. I remember that there is this one light, this one love, this one life energy, this one and only one. There is nothing else. Nothing else. It is a holistic unity. It is that which is an expression as itself everywhere, at every point of space and time and beyond. That one life, that one beautiful, joy-filled, powerful, loving life is all there is. And blessedly, we are one of it. There is nothing of us that is separate from that. Not the slightest dot or iota in our lives is separate from that one infinite love. We are that right here and now. And so I speak my word that we live in the more full awareness of that. We do drop our masks, we drop our armor, we drop our weaponry, we drop all the tools that we use to feel separate from God, to feel separate from each other, and to feel separate from our own self. We begin to drop those. We thank them for all the protection they have given in the past, and stand then beautiful in naked authenticity of the love and the power and the grace of who we are. We don't get fooled again. We allow ourselves to be living that life. And knowing that simply by being that self is enough. That we are enough in the world. That our own internal transformation supports the transformation of this world. It's the most important work we can do. The most important vote we can cast. And so we say yes to this life. Yes to this love. Yes to this oneness expressing more beautifully, more fully through us than ever before. And for this I'm grateful, for each of our yeses, for our willingness, our courage to go where we haven't been willing or powerful enough to go before. I'm so grateful for each of us who is here, and for the center itself that encourages and loves and supports this courage. I'm so grateful. And for the Spirit that moves through us all, I'm ever so grateful. And so I release this word in that sense of gratitude into this impersonal law that moves into form and expression in all of our lives here and now in the most beautiful, perfect, and wonderful ways possible. And all it takes is our willingness to be supported and to be aware of who we are. And we simply allow that to be. We affirm that by saying together, and so it is. So it is. Thank you.